My name is Anthony Papa. This is my art installation called The Drug War. I'm artist in residence for the Drug Policy Alliance. I was a first-time nonviolent drug offender that was sentenced to 2 15-year-to-life sentences under the Rockefeller drug laws. The way I got out of prison was through my art. In 1988, one night I was sitting in my cell, picked up a mirror, looked in the mirror, saw an individual was going to spend the most productive years of his life in a cage, and I painted a self-portrait which appeared at the Whitney Museum of American Art 7 years later. I got a lot of publicity on my case, and Governor George Pataki granted me executive clemency. So I used my art as a vehicle to get awareness about the issue of the drug war in the United States. I wanted to save those I left behind.
Joining us is Anthony Papa with the Drug Policy Alliance. Anthony spent a dozen years in a state prison for a nonviolent drug offense and is now an advocate against the so-called war on drugs.
Now to talk about all of this, the author of 15 to Life, How I Painted My Way to Freedom, Anthony Papa. He was locked up after being busted for delivering an envelope containing 4 ounces of cocaine. You're busted for carrying $500 worth of cocaine, and you're sentenced to how long?
Well, I got 2 15-to-life terms. First-time nonviolent drug offender under the Rockefeller drug laws of New York State, which mandate mandatory minimum sentencing laws, something that the president wants to reform. And I think it's a great idea because many people are in prison serving 15, 20, 25 years for small amounts of drugs, and they're rotting away in the system.
Former Attorney General Eric Holder, who led drug policy reform in 2013 by directing prosecutors to look at circumstances before charging defendants with drug crimes, calls the move dumb on crime and ill-informed. Anthony Papa agrees. He served 12 years in prison for a non-violent drug offense before then-Governor George Pataki granted him clemency.
They tried that in New York with the Rockefeller drug laws. When the laws were enacted in 1973, it was to capture the drug kingpin and to curb the drug epidemic. It did neither. It locked up low-level nonviolent drug offenders where our prisons in New York burst at its seams.
Anthony Papa is the manager of media and artist relations for the Drug Policy Alliance.
Give us a little background to your own experience under the Rockefeller drug laws and what seems to be political efforts to return us to those sorts of days again. What was your situation? What happened to you?
In 1985, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I got involved with drug activity. I bowled in a league in Yonkers, New York, and I kept coming late. And then my bowling partner said, "Why you keep coming late? My car broke down. Why don't you fix it? I have no money." You want to make some money? How? He introduced me to another individual who I found out he was dealing drugs in the bowling alleys in Westchester County. At first, he came to me. I knew what he was doing. I said, "I don't want to be involved." A few months passed. Christmas time, I owed rent. I had a fight with my wife about money, and I got desperate. When you get desperate, you do stupid things.
Prison is a separate, often violent society only glimpsed by the public through the movies and television programs like HBO's Oz.
We go through cycles in this country with what the point of a prison is. Is it redemption? Is it retribution? And now we seem to have fallen back into the bigger prisons, shove everybody in there, get everybody you can off the street.
When I went inside and I saw the violence, the everyday events of imprisonment, the life, I had my share of fighting inside. And I was lucky it never escalated to, stabbing anybody or something like that.
I don't know how I would survive. I don't think I would survive in prison. I don't think I have the capacity to do it.
It's a school where, you have to learn how to survive.
You see, that's the great sadness of it all, is to be able to survive in prison takes an extraordinary kind of a person, so that when they get out, we've created this strong but demented kind of a personality
Like people say to me, well, you're an exception to the rule. And I explained to them, I might have been an exception to the rule, but being inside, even if you aren't a bad person, eventually you're going to become a bad person.
And a lot of the people that were in prison in the 80s are getting out now. So we are now going to reap the harvest of the, the mentality of just shove everybody in prison for 20 years and the problem will go away. It's such a wrong-headed approach to a terrible problem.